everyone, Miss Grinsell here again. Welcome to day 2 of our writing this week. Now remembering that we are learning to write imaginative texts. Now yesterday was Monday and yesterday we had our planning day. It was great to see all your plans coming in. I really enjoyed seeing the stories that you're going to start writing today. Now keeping in mind today, Tuesday, and tomorrow, Wednesday, are both your writing days. So I will not be seeing your story come in to my Seesaw account or to your teacher's Seesaw account today, because you have about 30 minutes today and the same tomorrow to really put a good amount of effort into writing the story that you've planned. Now I would expect that if this was a written page, it would be about an A4 page or maybe more worth of work. On Thursday, we'll move on to editing the story that you've written, and on Friday, after you've gotten some feedback from your teacher, you will publish your work so that we end up with a class or a grade full of stories to share. Now, welcome to step 2, writing. Our learning intention for this lesson is we are learning to write a narrative, an imaginative text or a story. All means the same thing. Our success criteria, this is how you'll know if you've done well in today's lesson, is I can include a sizzling start. So if you've included a sizzling start in your writing today, you'll know you've been successful. I can include a section of tension, and the tension is where the problem happens. So when something goes wrong and the characters work to try and solve the problem. And I can include an exciting ending, the moment where the problem is solved. Because we do not want to end our stories with things like, and then they woke up, or it was all a dream, things like that. So we want to have an exciting ending. That's why we asked you to plan yesterday, because we said that you don't get in the car and start driving without knowing your destination, the place that you are going. So we need you to have in your mind, or have next to you on your sheet of paper, the plan, so you know where you are going today when you start writing. Now, of course, your actual writing is going to be a lot more detailed than the plan, but if you get stuck, you look back at the plan and you can see, oh, that's right, that's where I wanted to end up, and you can figure out how you'll get yourself there. Now I'm going to go into a bit more detail about each of the paragraphs in your writing today, just to let you know what you can include. When you finish writing the whole story, go back and watch this part of the video again, like a checklist to make sure that you've got what you need. Now your first paragraph, it's very important that you start with a sizzling start. And we know what a sizzling start is because we've been doing them in our classes for a number of weeks now. We know that a sizzling start is a way to draw your audience in, to grab their attention so they want to keep reading. We don't want to start with things like, yesterday I went to the shops, or once upon a time there was a girl. No, we want to start where the action is and grab their attention. Here are some examples of sizzling starts. You could start with a bang. Listen to this one. Jack jumped high, hope giving him strength, and she hit the ball hard. You could start by making the reader curious. That means they're thinking, oh, I wonder what's happening here. As the fog lifted, she could just see the outline of a shadowy figure. That grabs my attention. That makes me go, oh, I wonder what's about to happen next. You could start with a moment of change. My life is over. My parents have this crazy idea to move to China. And that really grabs the audience's attention and gets them into your story. You could use humor, something to make people laugh. Never let your 3-year-old brother eat ice cream in your bed. If I read that at the beginning of a story, I'd think, oh, I want to keep reading more and find out what happens next. Or you could start with some dialogue, that is, some speech between the characters. It's just a rat, I said, breathing hard. Rats don't growl, said Mike. And again, you can see that that sizzling start grabs your attention because you want to know what happens next. So your first paragraph will have a sizzling start. In the first paragraph, you'll make sure that the setting is very clear, and also the characters will be introduced. So by the time the reader reads your first paragraph, they would have had their attention grabbed, they would know the characters in the story and know where the story is set. In your middle paragraphs, that's where the problem happens. That is where something goes wrong. And then the characters work together to try and solve the problem. Now you might have one longer section in the middle with the problem and the solutions, or you might have a couple of paragraphs depending on how many events happen in your story. We've also been learning in class how to use the 5 senses to show the action and the tension rather than just write it down. So we've been thinking about what the characters might see, hear, smell, taste, touch, or feel. And that's really helped us to describe what's happening. So rather than just saying, I went on the trapeze, I would use my 5 senses to describe what's happening and show the reader rather than just tell them. So I might say, my hands gripped the cold metal bar. My heart was racing. It was beating like 1,000 drums. I could hear the crowd below cheering my name as I stepped forward to jump. That's showing them what's happening with the 5 senses rather than just telling them. So that's a great tip for you as you're writing out your tension and your problems and the ways they try to solve it today. Really think about how you can use those senses to describe what's happening, and it makes your writing really interesting to read. The final paragraph will be your exciting ending. I don't expect that you will get to the exciting ending today because you'll be spending so much time giving me really detailed ideas in the first 2 sections. Now, as you're writing today, remember that you, the writer, are able to include some things to make it very interesting for the reader. Similes, which we know because we've done at school and also while you've been at home, are perfect to put in all kinds of places in your writing. Because they're like putting 2 things together and saying they're like each other, it really helps people to understand a little bit more about what you're trying to say. So there are some examples here. Busy as a bee. Maybe your character is busy as a bee. Maybe they have something that sparkles like a diamond. Maybe they end up hungry as a bear. Maybe something happens in your problem that leaves them flat as a pancake. Or maybe they find something hard as a rock. So similes are great to include all throughout your paragraphs. Over here, you'll see the adjectives word mat. That's terrible, underlining. And this is available on the slide. So you can click on it and go to it. And lots of adjectives in a story really makes it interesting to read. It makes it very colorful and full and helps with the description. So it's my suggestion to look over this before you start, and you might find some words that you'd love to use in your story today. Just to go over it again, that we are learning to write a narrative. So by the end of today, you will have a sizzling start. You will be able to include a section of tension or the problem, and you'll be able to have an exciting ending or how the problem is solved. You have 2 days to write this, 2 lots of 30 minutes. Take your time, think about this very hard. On Thursday, you will be editing, and on Friday, you'll be publishing. I can't wait to see the stories that start to roll in over the next few days. Happy writing!